everyone, welcome back. My last video I talked about Marvel Star Wars and a couple of the books that I had picked up over the last few years, from that. Now that was the 70s and 80s version of Star Wars comics, but I grew up more in the 90s, late 80s, when Star Wars, the rights to the comics, had reverted to Dark Horse. And Dark Horse was putting out some really cool stuff that I remember. Now, I couldn't get a lot of it because I didn't really have access to a lot of cash back then, but I've been picking up a few issues here and there. The only one I really ever bought was Shadows of the Empire, and I did a really extensive video on Shadows of the Empire on Indiecron TV, so I'm not really going to cover that one, but I just wanted to go over an overview of some of the other stuff I had. Now, I used to have Heir to the Empire issue 1, but that got purged to a person who was looking to get some comic books, and I must have, delivered that one in one of those boxes. So, these are more recent acquires, except for a couple of them. So this is Tales of the Jedi, Follow the Sith Empire. And the Tales of the Jedi series, if you can see here, took place, it started 5,000 years before the original Star Wars movie, before Star Wars 4, or before the Battle of Yavin, as they used to call it, BBY. That was the old way that they measure stuff. Now I hear they've switched over to before and after Starkiller, which, we won't get into that. Anyway, this particular comic takes place 4,990 years before the original Star Wars. So it's set about 100 years off after the original Tales series, The Golden Age of the Sith. And this one is mostly dealing with the rediscovery of the Sith Empire, which are in their decline. It kind of starts with this character, Jory, I believe her name is, and they're traveling through hyperspace, and they kind of accidentally end up on one of the Sith planets and rediscover the Sith Empire. Artwork is absolutely phenomenal. The style they went with for the Tales series was more like sort of fantasy based, which I guess Star Wars is pretty fantasy based anyway, right? But it had this sort of almost like Mobius feel to it. Yeah. Some really cool stuff. The colors are absolutely amazing. This comic's over 20 years old, and the color still looks beautiful. It hasn't faded at all. It's in really good shape. This book's in excellent shape. I love the artwork. This is more my thing. I can see where some people wouldn't like it. Some weird faces, and the anatomy's not perfect. But there's some really cool stuff going on. There's lots of weird aliens in this, and droids and stuff. I like that it kind of went a little bit deeper into Star Wars lore and brought out some really bizarre looking aliens. Like look at this guy here. It's very Mobius. I don't know. This character here, he's like a brain in a crystal floating on some weird technological stuff. This is cool stuff. These are Jedi, I believe. I know this guy's a Jedi Master. He's a pretty cool design too. I always liked his character. Can't remember what his name is. Let's see. What was his name? I don't know. Anyway, I know this guy is Oru, something like that. Anyway. It was a very interesting series. I always wanted to read it, but I never got a chance to back in the day. But I found this one issue 1, just happened to be, and I wanted to pick it up, and now I really want to see it. Now I know, look at this. Isn't that fantastic? Now I know Marvel has republished a lot of these in their Legends collections, but I went to pick one up for one of the books in this pile later, and they're really expensive for some reason. So this is the next book that I acquired recently. This is Dark Empire. Now this was another series that really looked cool back in the day. You know, it was kind of an alternate take on the continuation from Return of the Jedi. A lot of people don't like this one because it's very dark, but it does what it does, and it's pretty interesting. Like, the artwork, first of all, will definitely set some people off. It's got this very monochromatic, weird, watercolory template to it. It's amazing, though. Like, some of the stuff they came up with, the fluidity and the anatomy is excellent. I really liked it. Some really cool. There's some battle droids in it before battle droids were really a thing in the canon. Luke is like invincible in this, which I like. He can take down a walker with the Force and deflect the laser fire from it. But there's some really cool stuff going on in Dark Empire. I noticed someone was making like an animated version of it online on YouTube. So if you search for like Dark Empire animated, they've got the first issue out. It's really well done. It uses the same sort of the art style from the comic, but it also combines it kind of with the Nelvada style, like holiday special animation, which I know it's kind of goofy looking, but it actually sort of works together really well. Anyway, moving on. This is a comic I've had since I was very young when it came out. Well, not very young, but I've owned it since it came out in 1997. One of the few ones that I could buy. Yeah, so Twin Engines of Destruction, Boba Fett. It's a one-shot, standalone issue, and it has some really cool artwork too. There's John Nadeau. Yeah, there's the. Anyway, I think it's really cool artwork. I know, I'm like obsessed with Boba Fett, and I still am today. But this mainly centers around this imposter named Jodocast, who's taken up the role of Boba Fett since he went missing after Return of the Jedi. Of course, Boba Fett's still alive. He's just all bandaged up and burnt from the Sarlacc, right? But anyway, it's a pretty cool story, and it has a really nice ending to it. Makes Boba Fett out to be a real badass. Some beautiful colors. See, the colors still really held up in this really well too. And I've manhandled this book. I've read it like 3 or 4 times at least. Alright, now this one is an odd bird. This came out just before the Lucasfilm purchase in 2013. It was one of the last books Dark Horse released. It is The Star Wars. And it has gorgeous artwork. I'm just going to open a page here. And it is based on the original shooting script for Star Wars before all the edits and all that stuff. So all the characters are different. They're based on the original characters. Like Starkiller is the last name instead of Skywalker. And, you know, Vader's just a dude in a mask. Ooh. And there's some very, very good artwork in it. Some really nice color work. Star Destroyers are just ships. Some really cool stuff going on in this. I always wanted to read it. I didn't really have access to comics at the time when this came out, and I was kind of like in and out of the shops. But like, look at these Stormtrooper designs. They're so cool. Everything's really neat in it. I know this one for a fact is in the Legends Marvel reproductions. Look at this. So, but it's pretty expensive, the collection that it comes in, and the other stories aren't that great. But this one was really interesting. I really want to get this so I can read the whole thing. I love this unproduced sort of going back and taking something that was unproduced and making it into something. is really interesting. I think comics are a really good medium for that because you don't have to spend a huge budget to make a movie or whatever that was never made. Like Dark Horse released an Alien 3 book, limited series, based on the original shooting script. And it was really different, but very, very interesting nonetheless. I own that one too, but I have the whole line of that one, and that one's really cool. Maybe we'll take a look at that sometime. But those are, just a few Dark Horse books. Dark Horse was my Star Wars comic producer back in the day, and I do miss them. I don't think Marvel really lives up to the creativity and storytelling that these guys had. It's just not the same. Like, they took a lot of chances in the Dark Horse lines, and I want to go back to those days. Maybe now that all the movies are out and they don't have to have that sort of wall set up by Lucasfilm that they can't tell certain stories or talk about certain characters. Now that that's gone, maybe now they can explore some really interesting aspects of some of the newer characters and maybe make them good, fleshed out, interesting. Let's hope so. Anyway, that's all I really wanted to talk about today. Just show off a couple books, talk about them, talk about how I want to read more of them. Anyways, thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you next time. Thank you.